Hi, I'm Glenn Everett, Master of Machines. We're back at PowerHouse Engines in Warragul, Victoria, Australia. And on the engine dyno here, we've got another one for the Mopar fans, the mighty leaning tower of power. The 225 cubic inch Slant Six Chrysler engine, a real favourite of mine. This is the 225 cubic inch variant that we were delivered here in Australia for our Valiant series back in the early 60s. Originally, the customer wanted a dead stock engine for his weekend cruiser, then thought about going mild. Then it hit. Things got out of control, and here's the result, a very wild variant of this engine. It's got a decent compression ratio, a beautiful cylinder head, a wild camshaft, and it's supported by three 45mm Weber carburetors. Starting life in the early Plymouth Valiants in the US, they say that the Chrysler engineers wanted an engine that sat a little bit lower in the engine bay for bonnet clearance to get the nose of that vehicle down in that compact machine. But I've got a feeling, knowing what the Chrysler engineers were like back in the day, that they were itching for a little bit of runner link for their intake manifolds. If you look at some of their engines through the 50s and 60s, you'll notice they've got very long intakes, and they put a lot of design and engineering into making the intake and exhaust systems work efficiently back then. And if you look at this, there's plenty of room for this carburation, as you can see. It's an absolute dream when it comes to intake manifold and carb specification. So to speed things up, we've gone through the running in process, we've bedded the engine in, we've run the camshaft in, we've checked valve clearances and done some system checks. So before we start making some horsepower, I'm going to run you through some internal specs of this engine to give you a better look at what makes this baby tick. This Angry Slant Six built by PowerHouse Engines features the original 4.125 inch stroke and 3.4 inch bore, oversized for a total capacity of just under 231 cubic inches. PowerHouse's stringent testing of engine block and cylinder head casting integrity has taken place prior to a comprehensive in-house precision machining, blueprinting and assembly process. For rotating assembly, the factory steel crank was inspected, tested, index ground and partnered with Molnar Technologies H-beam conrods, all fastened by ARP bolts and studs. The entire rotating assembly was precision balanced to within 0.03 grams and complemented by a Romac Pro Series harmonic balancer. Wyseco Pro True Street Series forged flat top pistons were utilised and feature an Armour Glide skirt coating for reduced friction, premium piston rings and a pump fuel friendly compression ratio of 10.5 to 1. Camshaft is a custom ground solid flat tappet, featuring 245 degrees duration at 50 thou on the intake, with just over 550 thou lift available at the valve, all driven by a JP Performance dual row timing set. Yellow Terra Platinum Race Series roller rockers are utilised for reliable valve actuation, in unison with heavy-duty chromoly push rods. The original cylinder head features extensive port work, polished and CC'd chambers, CHE bronzed valve guides, and precision-cut performance valve seats. Ferrea stainless valves are featured with matching heavy-duty valve springs and chromoly retainers. A custom thickness high-performance MLS head gasket seals the cylinder head to the block, all securely clamped together using ARP head studs and topped with an Aussie Speed cast aluminium rocker cover. The intake system consists of a ceramic-coated inlet manifold supporting three 45mm DC OE side draft Weber carburetors. Ignition is electronic using a custom advance curve, and spent exhaust gases exit via ceramic-coated Aussie Speed Dutra dual cast iron exhaust manifolds. It's worth noting that whilst it's most likely that there would be more power potential using a custom-made tubular header, these compact duals provide the adequate clearance off the shelf that is required for this multiple carburation application. American Slant Six guru Dr. Dodge Doug Dutra created the original concept of these dual outlet headers over 30 years ago. Now, Aussie Speed reproduces them after acquiring the original tooling and having revamped the design to further improve performance and allow fitment to a wider range of vehicles. Made in Australia, the manufacturing process includes modern casting techniques and CNC machining for precise and easy installation. So after setting total ignition timing to a conservative and safe level, in addition to testing various static load points for detonation thresholds and air fuel ratio measurements, now it's time for full power runs, with the first being limited to 5,000 RPM. Wow, Wow, a very solid result off the bat and still climbing hard at the 5,000 RPM shut-off point. 243 horsepower and 276 foot-pound of torque. Now it's time to take this baby to 5,500 RPM and see where it takes us. Looking very promising with 262 horsepower and still climbing with some excellent power under the curve. As we increase RPM, fuel mixtures are starting to lean out a little, so it's time for a jetting change before we turn this slant any harder. The beauty of these Italian-derived Weber carburetors is their virtually endless tunability when it comes to fueling calibration through a multitude of available emulsion tubes to assist in altering the fuel curve, in unison with main jets and high-speed air correctors. In addition to lambda sensors in the exhaust tract measuring air-fuel ratios, reading spark plugs is not to be underrated, as this provides a perfect window into what's actually happening within the combustion chamber. We've also taken ignition timing up another notch to help find that magic sweet spot for efficient combustion and power production. Now let's spin this leaning tower of power to 6,000 RPM. The engine that keeps on giving, 271 horsepower and 274 foot-pound of torque. But it's not over yet, as now it's time to swap out the carburetor main venturis, commonly referred to as chokes, with a larger version and let this baby breathe. With the Weber's modular design, you can swap out just about any removable component to achieve the desired result. And in this case, we're replacing the standard 36mm choke with a substantially larger 40mm variant, in hope of unleashing even more power. These iconic carbs are often said to be the next best thing to fuel injection, and from experience we tend to agree. And they're also quite easy on the eye, because nothing beats a symphony of trumpets. There's no guarantee we'll see a result, but I have a feeling this heavy breathing long stroke 6 will net some gains, and there's only one way to find out, so let's start off with a 5,000 RPM run, keep an eye on fueling and see what happens. A great result with 257 horsepower so far and 285 foot-pound. We've only turned it to 5,000 RPM and fueling mixtures are still on track. Those chokes are definitely helping, so let's take it to 6,000. Yes, 284 horsepower and 286 foot-pound of torque. That's what I'm talking about. Look at the effect of the slant's nice long stroke with all that torque. And creating that level of horsepower at a nice and safe 5,700 RPM is a sensational result. Well, we've optimised ignition timing and carburation, but let's see if John has any more tricks up his sleeve. So what's the plan here, John?
Hotting the camshaft up.
You better tell the viewers what you mean by that.
I'm just going to run the tappets just a little bit tighter, just to see if it wants a little bit of valve timing events opening a bit earlier.
So effectively it's like making the camshaft artificially larger, isn't it, by closing those clearances up?
That's it. And there's obviously only a certain point you can take it to, but generally most cams you can go 2 to 3 thou tighter, and it won't really affect it. So you'll soon find out if it does. So.
Oh, it's a good little hot rodding trick, that one. Well, that was a great little test, and although we've lost approximately 1 horsepower in the top end, we've picked up nearly 4 foot-pound of peak torque. And they say torque wins races, so we'll take it. What a fantastic result for what should be an incredible all-round engine for the street, with strong torque levels and a whole bunch of power under the curve. So Mick, you're the lucky owner of this leaning tower of power, the Slant Six here. You must be absolutely ecstatic with the result.
Oh, Glenn, look, the work that John and yourself have done on this to get it to where it is, I couldn't be happier.
And what's it actually going into?
It's going into a 65 AP6 I've had for about 4 years now.
You were initially going to go for a standard rebuild, but somehow it just got a little bit out of control.
Yeah, it did, Glenn. I was just looking at freshening the original motor up, and then a mutual friend of John and mine pointed me down towards John, and it's just, as you can see, it's just snowballed.
Like really, that sort of horsepower, we're talking a serious power plant, and we're talking a bunch of torque with a long stroke of these engines. So you've really got the best of both worlds, haven't you?
Oh, I certainly have, and as I said at the start, just could not be happier with the result.
Good stuff, mate. Well, I look forward to seeing it in the car at some stage. We'll have to have a look at it.
Absolutely.
Well, what an incredible result that was. 280 plus horsepower, 290 plus foot-pound of torque, all done within 6,000 RPM. This thing is going to be an absolute monster on the street. And the manners are beautiful. The triple carburation does actually smooth out the idle too, so it stops it from being too much of a pig and just turns it into a tyre-smoking powerhouse. So be sure to like, comment and subscribe, because we need your support to keep this channel alive. And stay tuned, because we've got some incredible car collections and some amazing engine builds coming up.